Shalom, shalom, family. Shock Yehuda, YAH'S Assembly. We're at it again. Quote unquote, black Hebrew Israelites or African Hebrews or African Israelites are getting deported. No matter what you do, you can't outrun it. Let's get into it. African Hebrews say dozens set to be deported from Israel. Spokesman of group says Interior Ministry gave notice to at least 46 families that they must leave country within 60 days, despite much of the community having permanent residency. So the majority of the community are permanent residents, and they're going to kick out 46 whole families. Now, it doesn't tell you if the 46 people or 46 families already have permanent residency, but let's keep going. Dozens of members of a polygamous vegan sect in Israel have received deportation orders from the government. The group's spokesman said Monday, despite much of the community having received permanent residency under arrangements in Israel. So there's 46 families about to get kicked out. Why do they have to put another negative connotation on them? A polygamous sect. Why? Because to justify things like this, they have to make them the bad guy, as usual. It's from their playbook. No matter where you go, or in this current reality, that's just the status quo. The community, which numbers around 3,000 people, is made up of black Americans, if you subscribe to that label, whose leaders moved to Israel in the 1960s and believe they are descendants of an ancient Israelite tribe, because they are. Most live in the southern desert town of Dimona. of Dimona. Now, from the research that I've done, Dimona is kind of like the ghetto. So it's not like they're living in the best place in Israel. Prince Emmanuel ben Yehuda, spokesman for the African Hebrew Israelites of Jerusalem, said that the Interior Ministry had given notice to at least 46 families that they must leave the country within 60 days, calling it a shock to the system. So, in another article, they say black Hebrew Israelites, whatever. But no matter what goes on, they have to put a negative connotation on them. These people, their lives are being completely uprooted, and very subtly, like a snake, all these media outlets find additional ways to make them look bad. A lot of these people were born there. That's the only place that they've known. And if they were born there, how are they going to get deported out and come back to America as citizens? How is that going to work? Make that make sense. The African Hebrew Israelites began arriving in Israel in 1969, following Ben Carter, a Chicago steelworker who named himself Ben Ami Ben Israel and claimed to be God's representative on earth. But Israel was not sure what to make of the newcomers who arrived on tourist visas, adopted Hebrew names in a West African style of dress. The government was unsure whether they qualified for citizenship under the country's law of return, which is granted to almost any Jew who requests it. So they have a literal law called the law of return. Anyone claiming to be a Jew is supposed to be able to go over there in the law of return. You have to renounce certain things and then accept certain things to live there. But when it comes to a specific group of people, even that can be null and void. Because you can't outrun the curses of Deuteronomy 28 and Leviticus 26. You can't do it. You can't. The Interior Ministry granted many members of the community temporary residency in 1992 and permanent residency status in 2003. Many members studied in Israeli schools, and serve in the military. So you got people fighting, warring, and dying potentially for this country, and you want to kick them out. When are we gonna finally learn how to love our neighbors as ourselves? When? Because you can't run it. You can't outrun it. It don't matter where you go to. It don't matter what country you're into. And we know the biblical prophecy is being fulfilled every day. Things are going to get worse and harder before it gets better. We're about to be living in the days of Terminators and Matrix and RoboCop. A lot of people don't understand that. For quite some time, we've had a number of members of the community with different levels of immigration status. Some of us have full citizenship, some taking permanent residency, some have temporary residency, and some have no status whatsoever, said Ben Yehuda. He said the community has been working for years with Israeli authorities to sort out the legal status of those without permanent residency. Oh man. So I'm not gonna read this whole thing, but I just hope that their faith is right, their walk is right with the Most High through His beloved Son. Because man, if they get kicked out and America doesn't give them clemency and allow them to come back, maybe they will under Biden. But we know that the quote unquote black Hebrew Israelites are labeled an extremist sect or organization worldwide. And man, it's like the black codes are everywhere. And one more thing, stop letting them put these labels on you as a classification. Because in an older Black's Law Dictionary, the term black means that you are either a dead entity or a chattel slave. So they can take the chains off your neck and off your hands if you know you're a slave. What need do they have for them? Stop allowing these labels to be your label. All right. This is YAH'S Yehuda, YAH'S Assembly. Shalom.